Vegas, baby fans. I'm back. You probably need me more than ever now because it is incredible. So I'm just going to talk about it a little bit and then get into my stories. I don't even know what to say. I had a panic attack, anxiety attack last Friday in Walmart because the shelves were empty and it was freaking me out. So I got a little few things and got out of there. Didn't get everything I even wanted to look for. And then I went to the store on Sunday, my local store, our Smith's, which is like Jewel back in Illinois, and shelves are empty. No meat, no eggs, no pasta, none of that stuff. Bread, all of it gone. So I called them on Sunday and I'm like, well, what's the best thing to do? And they said, they usually are open 24 hours. Now they're only open from 8 to 10 because they said they need time to restock. Okay. So then I get there early and their shelves are still pretty much empty and they're restocking ads. All these people, oh my God. And then we're down this one aisle. There had to been, and you know, store aisles are not very wide, and this particular store in particular is not. There had to have been at least 10 to 12 people with their shopping carts trying to get down this aisle. They had people on the floor restocking in our ways, and there's this lady on her fucking cell phone discussing the neighborhood and this and that, and she's in everybody's way. Really? Is this the time to be on the cell phone chit chatting about your neighbors? And I said to her, ma'am, really? And it's like, no, you're in the wrong. I'm not. I'm just trying to get stuff. So, and I didn't even get everything I wanted. They didn't have it. Um, if the stores don't stock up so the rest of us can get stuff, because I didn't hoard like the rest of the people. Shame on people who are hoarding, by the way. If everybody just took enough and then went back like the next day instead of doing it all at one time, we'd all be able to have enough. If they were to close everything down, I won't have, there's just no if and buts about it, I won't have enough food. I don't keep that much food on because the store, it's literally not even 5 minutes from my house. I could walk to it. So I just go every couple days, you know. So I'll be fucked. I gotta lose weight anyway, so oh well. So let's forget about that. Today I'm gonna talk about some work stories. You know, after Bill had passed away in 2008, and we're going to get into all that, but that's another story. I was working at Baxter again for I don't know what the third time, second time, I don't remember. Third time I think I went back, and I had a job that I really didn't like. But I had worked for a company named Access. Before Bill died, and right before Bill died, I was still working there, and probably 2 months, 3 months before Bill passed away, they went bankrupt. They did Chapter 13. And that meant no COBRA for employees. And I needed insurance because I carried the insurance for Bill because remember, Bill's having all these issues. Always, always. So I'm like freaking out. So I just took the first job I could get. And I worked at this company. And it was funny because they loved me. They're like, because I was like, this is how you do all your stuff. So I was helping them change things to make them more up to date. And then an old boss from Baxter called, and I was 2.5, 3 weeks into this job, new job, and she said, I got a job. If you want it, you can have it. And I'm like, really? And then I said, and it was a lot more money, and insurance, and it was Baxter. So I'm like, yeah. So, and I do remember when I went to interview, she said, you still have to come in and meet the supervisor, who I sort of knew anyways. And her name was Mary. And I got to tell you, I know she was not happy that Nancy, the manager of the department, actually, she was the head of the department, not manager, she was the head, hired me like that. I worked with Nancy when I worked there before. She was our manager then. She's higher up now. And I know that Mary did not appreciate her just hiring me. Oh, well, I was a good employee, so she brought me back. And so I did this job for a while. Actually, no, I was there longer than that. I take that back. It was a year before Bill. I was there a year. So I take that back. I got laid off. The chapter 13 happened a year before Bill died in 2007. And then I ended up going back to Baxter. And it was a reporting job where I worked with all the distributors and I was doing all their chargebacks. So it was all reporting and reports on the computer all day. You didn't interact with anybody. Well, um, this is when and so this is the story of meeting some really awesome people after Bill had passed away. So I met this girl. Bill was still alive. This was get towards the end, and I had met this wonderful girl named Jolene. She sat next to me, but we all had cubes, and there was a little window like so we could talk, and we got to be really good friends. She was young, early 20s, middle 20s, and she helped me with the job. She helped train, which I had no training. They just said, "Here, go." So she helped me a lot. And a side note, she is now a director at Baxter. That's how from 2007 and 8 she's our, and this is what 2000 or 2020 she's now a director there, so she's very high up. And so smart cookie. But I taught her some things about life because she was young and she hadn't gotten married yet. And they were trying to get engaged and this and that. And then she taught me stuff. So great girl. So after Bill passed away in 2008, I went back to work 1 week after he passed away. I don't know what I was thinking. I was in a very bad place. I didn't know what I was doing. I honestly didn't. And I do remember some girls walking by my desk, and of course, they didn't think I heard them, and I did. How fucking rude. You know what the one girl goes, "How could she come back to work after a week? What is wrong with her? I could never do that." Like I needed to hear that when I was already, my head was spinning and I didn't even know where I was. Thank you, bitch. So I worked there for about a month and I was having a really hard time. I just couldn't concentrate. I just couldn't do my job. It was awful. So I made a decision. I talked to my sister and some of my family and said, I'm going to have to walk away for a while. So I went to the boss, the big boss, Nancy, and I told her, and she's like, why don't you just take a leave of absence? And I said, well, I've thought about that, but I don't know when I'll come back. And the department I worked in needed bodies. We were so busy. And I felt bad for them. I said, I feel bad. I can't go on a leave if I don't know how I could be out 2 months, I could be out 6 months, and it's not fair to the team because then they can't open up the job to somebody new because they had to leave it for so many months for me. And I said, and that's just not fair to the team. I said, I'm just walking away. I said to her, I appreciate you letting me have this job last year. It helped me. It helped us get through the rough times. I had insurance. I had better pay. I said, but I don't know, and I didn't want to do that to the department, so I just quit. And she was like, wow, I don't know that too many people who would care about that in your what you're going through, but you're still caring about other people. Of course. So I quit. And I'm not going to go into all that. That's part of the other story of Bill passing away. So there was a lot of bad months. Anyways, once I got in that, and once I was in a 2009, it was February, and I'm like, okay, I got to get back to work. So I forced myself. I ended up getting a job at a dialysis company for Fresenius, and it was for home dialysis, and we had centers as well. They're all over the United States. So I worked their customer service, basically working with patients, ordering their supplies. And while there, I'm not going to go into that job. It was, oh my God, talk about stressful. Some of those patients were the meanest patients. And I heard all the time, you don't understand. Well, see, I do because my husband was on both peritoneal and hemodialysis, but you can't talk about that kind of stuff on the phone with them. So I always tried to be as compassionate as I could. So, but there was 8 people on our team, girls, and we all sat there, and it was funny because people don't think I'm shy, but when I go to a new job or something like that, I always kind of just keep to myself because I like to check everybody out, get to know who it is, and it was funny. So I was there about this one friend Connie said that she goes, you've been there about 5 months and you hardly said a word. She goes, I thought you didn't like me. And then finally one day I remember we weren't busy and it was a Friday afternoon, and Connie goes, she sat kitty corner from me, and she's like, so Lynn, first time anybody really addressed me except for good morning and that kind of stuff. And she's like, so what are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, well, we talked. And then Connie and I got to be good friends. And then her good friend was also on our team, Velma. I call her VQ because her last name starts with a Q. So Connie and Velma um, and me got to be good friends, which was really awesome. And then I loosened way up after that, and I got to be Lynn. And I started making them laugh, and we would do things. Um, One time, oh, they made me, because they made me run around. They said, well, you never got to do the newbie song. I guess you had to sing around and dance around the department. And so I did that, had them laughing because I was singing and dancing. And they're like, okay, she fits in just fine here. But there was this one girl on our team, and I think her name was Lisa. And I shouldn't say this, but she was kind of trash. She was trailer trash. She's the meaning. She had 5 kids, and they were all from different fathers, and she was huge. And I hate to say that, but she was, and never really very clean. She called in all the time, and no one could understand how she could get it because they had a very strict policy. But it turns out she was on FMLA. She got on it somehow, so they couldn't touch her. And for a while, they did get her finally, but for a while. So, and she just never. She called in all the time. She wasn't very good, and we needed people who were good because we're answering phones like this. So one day it was kind of slow, and we were sitting there, and she used to stare at me. She was across the way from me, and she used to stare at me, and it freaked me out. So one day she wasn't there, and it was kind of slow, and we were all talking, and I said, I gotta tell you guys, the whole team was there, even our man, our supervisor. And I said, why does she stare all the time? I go, the other day she was staring at me, I swear to God, she went like this. She looked at me, and I think she thought I was a pork chop. I'm not kidding, because she was staring at me, and she was going, and I'm like, oh my God, she thinks I'm a pork chop. She's going to want to eat me. And everybody just died laughing. I thought they were all going to pee in their pants. Oh my God, we laughed so hard. And we got to be good friends. And then a bunch of us on the team, our supervisor, then they fired her and they got somebody else. And we went bowling one night. And I don't know where the hell they took us. It wasn't Waukegan, it was even farther out. I don't know where the hell I was. And we went bowling, and oh my God, we get there, and the manager's like, we're going to eat pizza, we're going to bowl, we're going to have a good time. Well, their food, this bowling alley, it was awful. Somebody got one pizza, and nobody ate it. It was so gross. And then everybody's buying drinks. Anyways, the end of we're done bowling, and I said to VQ, I said, she goes, are you okay? Are you going to be okay to drive home? Because it was probably 45 minutes to where I had to get back home. Because, like, again, don't know where even the hell I was. And she's like, I said, oh my God, I'm drunk. You see, you're partying, you don't realize and she's like, oh my God. So I got a couple bottles of water, and she's like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'll be fine. She's like, call me when you get home. So I get in the van, and I throw my bowling ball in the back seat, and I start to drive it. The bowling ball falls off the seat now. So every time I speed up, it goes to the back of the van. Boom! It hit the back door, and I'm like, shit. And then I start to speed up again. I start driving, and then it comes rolling all the way back to the front again. And I'm driving and trying to grab. This happened for I don't know how many times, back and forth. The bowling ball is going, and then I'm trying to grab it as I'm driving. And I'm drunk, and I don't know where I am. I'm not proud of the fact that I was driving. I mean, I wasn't hammered, but I shouldn't have been driving. And this bowling ball is going boom, up and forth, up and down the van. Finally, I pulled over because I was afraid to pull over. Because sometimes at night, when it's dark on a Friday night, you pull over, cop's going to pull you over, going to get out of the car and see what you're doing. So I got it finally, and I put it in the front seat, and I took off. And I was like, I got close to my sister's house. Now, we only live 5 minutes apart, but I'm like, safer to go to her house. So I went down her street, and I got to my sister's house, and they were at their friend's house that lived behind them partying, and I showed up. They're all like, Lynn's here! And they're like, where have you been? I'm like, oh my God, I was bowling, and I didn't know where I was, and I just came here. And they're all like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. So I spent the night at my sister's. So when I talked to VQ the next day, she goes, oh, you went to your sister's? Oh, good. So it was close. I said, no, she lives 5 minutes from me. She's like, so you drove 40 minutes and didn't go home. You just stopped at your sister's. I said, 5 minutes less on the road. So we laughed about that. And VQ and Connie are still good friends to this day with me. I love them. And it had been, I remember it was the first anniversary of Bill's death, and I was there. And we did a thing, all our families, my family and his family, we had turned off the machine at 1:10 p.m. So at 1:10 p.m., a year from the date of he died, everybody was going to stop and just take 5 minutes. So they let me get off the phones. I went outside. It was actually a beautiful April day. That there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and they're like, my boss supervisor like, sit outside for like 10 minutes and have your time, and that was really cool. So I did that, and all our family did it. So then I had enough with that place because it was just It was so stressful. And then I ran into in Walmart an old boss from Baxter. Again, here we go again. And I told her I worked at this place, couldn't stand it. She goes, "Hey, I'm now over on another team, and we need people." And I said, "Great." So they hired me. So I quit for Fresenius and I went back to Baxter again. And the first day in orientation, no matter how many times you work there, you got to go through orientation. So I went to, I think, four different orientations, three or four. And I met this girl, Elisa, and we started talking, and she was young, 20s, mid 20s. And we started talking. All of a sudden, we had these weird little symmetries that drew us together. We're like, wow. And then we found out we were in the same department, more or less, and we were going to be in training together, just her and I. So it was cool. And to this day, um, she is a very dear friend of mine. As a matter of fact, if you follow my Facebook page, we had started a GoFundMe page. Her husband did, but in the urging of me and her sister, after her son was mauled by a dog at his what we thought safe daycare. So that's my girlfriend Elisa, and we are very close. She's like my daughter. I mean it. We were so close, and so we got so close. So that was a good thing. And then I got to be making. So we got into this department at Baxter, and I, got to, went through training and this and that, and we got to be friends. I got to meet people. It was really working. It was great. And then this one guy started. He came in. He had long hair. He was about 10 feet tall. He's not. He's six. I don't know, five. Actually, a tall drink of water is what he is. But he came and he had a ponytail, and there was something about it. Him and I did not click. So he had been there about 6 months or so, and we never really said much to each other. We didn't click. We actually had a little bit of a shouting match during one of our team huddles. We huddled every morning about things. And then things were changing. Baxter sold us off, spun us off to a new company they called Bax Alta. So now we were just selling our specialty drugs. We had specialty drugs for hemophilia, for immune suppressant patients. They were very expensive, very special drugs. So, and I was now going to work with some of the big distributors and this and that. So our boss is like, okay, we're moving. Some people were, there was like 15 of us in the department, and half had to go to Baxter and half stayed with us. So I stayed with Bax Alta. And so she's like, we're moving people around because we don't need you all spread out in the department. There's only, 8 of us now instead of 16. And so she put the new seating order, and she had me and Ryan, the tall drink of water, sitting next to each other. And him and I were just like, we looked at each other like, you gotta freaking be kidding. So individually, we both went to her. We didn't know it till later. And she's like, I don't care. I want you two sitting together. She said, because you're going to be working together. I have you both taking big accounts. Okay. So, and we literally were on top of each other. It was a queue, but it wasn't. There was just low walls. And what's really funny about it is Ryan and I became so close. We are now, he's like another son. So we are extremely close to this day. I love Ryan, his wife, and his daughter. But so we're working at Bax Alta now, doing our thing and being afraid that, what's going to happen. We had to work with all the customers, changing everything because now we're a new company, and we had a new CEO. The I think he was co-CEO, not co-CEO. He was right under the CEO Baxter, and his name was Lud Hansen, and he became our CEO at Bax Alta. Really cool guy. Didn't wear a tie, would go to the lunchroom and talk to people. I mean, CEO Baxter was not like that at all. This guy was talking. So one day I had left, it was done, and apparently he came to our group and was saying hi to people, but I was already gone. So the next day they're like, oh my God, you missed him. The CEO Lud was here. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, shoot. So one day I had walked down to the cafeteria, which was because Baxter buildings, we're still in the Baxter building, and they're huge. And so I was walking, and I was coming back because we were on the second floor, and the first floor over in a ways away is the executive floor, and nobody went down that hall unless you were an executive or a secretary for the executives. Nobody walked down that hall. Well, I started walking, and I was walking back to them to get to down the elevators, and then I saw him standing there at the end of that hall, the hall, and he was on the phone. I'm like, I'm gonna go meet him. So I just stroll. I'm like, I was so scared. I was walking down the executive hall that nobody walked down. And I just kept walking and walking. And he hung up and he's like, hi. And I said, hi, Mr. Hanson. I'm Lynn Hayden. And he goes, I recognize you. He goes, you're from the team upstairs, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I know. I came up there to visit the other day, but you had already left for the day. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, how did you know that? And I'm like thinking, wow, he's good. And he goes, oh, I saw all those pictures. He goes, you have a lot of pictures at your desk. And I go, I know. And he goes, I like it though. And we talked for a few minutes and he's like, I'll come up and visit you guys again sometime. I'm like, cool. And also he had been divorced. He had just gotten a divorce. So I'm like, and he was my age. So after I met him, I kind of slowly walked back down that hall. And as soon as I got out of the executive, I ran to the, I didn't even take the elevator. I ran the stairs up and I come running into the group. I'm like, I just met Lud. They're like, what? And I said, yeah, I saw him. I said, I went down that hallway. They're like, you went down the executive hallway? And I go, I did. And I met him. And they're like, that is so cool. So it was really, we were laughing about that. And then, so a couple months went and Christmas was around the corner and we were going to have in our department, we couldn't shut down the phones. We rarely shut down the phones. So we were going to have a lunch brought in and have a buffet type of thing to celebrate Christmas. So I emailed Lud, CEO, and I invited him. I said, you know, it would really, because it was tough times because it was very stressful because we didn't know if we were going to be sold. We were going to be spun. You know, now we're back south. We knew we were going to be moving. We didn't know where, what building. Once Baxter kicked us out, so everybody was under a lot of stress. And it's the end of the year, which is extremely busy for this department because you got to make your numbers too. So I said, and he wrote back. He said, "I'll come by." And we're all like, "Yeah, okay." Everyone's like, "He's not going to come by." Do you know he did? He comes up and he finds me. He's like, taps me on the shoulder. Hi. And I'm like, oh my God. So we talked for a few minutes. Everybody in our cube area were talking to him. So I walked him around and I started to introduce him to some people. And there's this one employee of ours, Yusung was his name, and he didn't know that Lud was our CEO. And so he just hung up and I said, hey, Yusung, this is Lud. And you could call him by his first name. And he's like, oh, hi. And he's like, I go, do you know who he is? And he's like, no, because your son stayed to himself. And he goes, no, I don't know. And he goes, I'm your CEO. He said to your son, his face got so red. And Lud's like, it's okay. So he walked around and talked to everybody. And he was talking to me for a while. We were talking about his kids. And, he's got kids. They're all adult kids. And 3 kids, 2 out of the 3 had a couple masters in different things, and the third one was still in school. Very smart. And he's from Germany too. He was from Germany, he was there and everything. He came over to the United States. So him and I were talking a lot, and people were like, after he left, they're like, I think Luddy likes you. So now it was Luddy. So when I would walk, a lot of times I would walk away to go to the bathroom or something, they would take pictures of him and post them on my screen. So I'd come back from the bathroom and there would be a picture like of Lud. Lynn, where are you? And they used to do stuff like that all the time for me. And then we had a great group. And then, if back in Illinois, I still listen to WXRT, but there used to be a commercial on WXRT. I don't know if it's still on it. I haven't heard it, but I don't hear a lot of local commercials when I stream it. But there was a place called It's Just Lunch, and they're basically matchmakers. So they said, oh, we're having a sale. So I said, they're all like, you should call them. You can meet somebody. I'm like, all right. So I called. $4,000. Oh, but we're going to find somebody for you. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I said, no, no man is going to pay $4,000 to go out with me. I'm just telling you, it ain't going to happen. Again, not the greatest look for a woman. Okay. So I came to work that Monday and I told him, I'm like, $4,000. So I had this old cookie jar that looked like a garbage can that I had brought to work one day for something, and it was still sitting there. So this girl, Jen, puts this big sign on there. Lynn's It's just lunch fund. Let's raise money so she can go on a date. And she put it right there. And people would walk. A lot of executives, some executive and managers were in our building too. And they would walk by. And this one of the higher ups walked by and she's like, "What's this for? What does this all mean?" She's like, "Oh, we're trying to get her to a date." She put in a 20. It was awesome. Oh my God, we laughed so hard about that. And, and then of course the Lud pictures would go up all the time. So then we only raised $50, so we kept there was $50 in this fund, if you can believe that. We kept it, and when we all got separated, and then we were going to move from the Baxter building to an old Baxter building. We're not, instead of Deerfield, where the corporate headquarters was, there was another one in Vernon Hills, which was a few miles away, and so they moved us all there. So our group, so we all got moved there, and that was incredible. And there wasn't a lot of people in this building, so um, so then another Lud Stories CEO, and I'm thinking, God, I wish I could go out with that man. So then we move over to the new building, and they were in the process of hiring my friend's husband for our group, Elisa's husband. And he got hired, and they said, well, they went through everything, and they said, we'll see you next Monday. Friday afternoon, before he's supposed to start, he gets a call from the HR department. There was a mix up in some of his paperwork, and he won't be able to start for a couple weeks, they think. They're not even sure. And he's like, "What? You told me I was starting Monday." And so, our bosses, our immediate two bosses, the director and our supervisor, our manager, were out of town. And I called them, and they're like, "Well, we're going to have to wait." And I said, "This man needs a job, and he was told he was going to he was starting Monday, and now he's told he's not, and he doesn't know when." So I said, "That's just not right." And they're like, "Well, there's nothing we can do." I wrote Lud, the CEO. And guess what? That man started that Monday morning. And so it's Monday morning, and he's going through orientation, and now it's Tuesday, and it's early in the morning, and my phone rings. And I was looking at it, and I was like, "That somebody's calling me from corporate headquarters," because the phone number pops up. It's weird. So I pick it up, and Ryan was sitting next to me in a cube, and I, say my spiel, blah, blah, blah. This is Lynn. And he's like, and I didn't hear him say, "Hi, this is Lud Hanson." And I said, I'm sorry, who is this?" And then he said, and I said, "Lud, you're our CEO." And Brian, who was sitting next to me, jumps up and he starts pacing around. Because he's all nervous. He's like, "You guys, Lud, the CEO is on the phone with Lynn right now." And they're all like, "What?" So they're all standing around my department, and around me, and I'm talking to Lud on the phone. I'm like, and I even sat up straight in my chair like it made any difference. And he's like, "I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you sending me that email about that young man. And I see that he has started. There was no excuse for how he was treated. And I'm really, really glad you had the confidence enough to reach out to me." He goes, "You're a good person." And and he even reached out to Elisa, who worked there now. Remember, I told you I met her from the first day I started in 2012 back at Baxter. And he called Elisa as well. No, I'm sorry, he emailed her, and because I said, his wife is pregnant, they need this job. And he's like, "I want pictures of the baby." So, anyways, I was talking to him on the phone, and I made a comment like, "I think I'm going to get in trouble for this." And he said, "What do you mean you're going to get in trouble for this?" I said, "Well, I went over my manager's head." But I said, "They weren't doing anything." He goes, "Let me tell you right now, I'm going to give your name to the head of HR, and if there is any repercussions or backlash, you call, and we'll take care of it. Because you did nothing wrong except for look out for somebody else." And I'm thinking, man, I would love to date this guy, right? So that was pretty funny because but I did get in trouble. And I did not call HR. I wasn't going to do it anymore. My manager was mad at me, and the director of our department did not speak to me for over a month. And every time I walked by her name is Lauren, I got dirty looks. And it really was kind of the downfall of my days at Baxalta. Those two never really forgave me for that. But they ignored me when I called them. All they had to do was make a call to HR to take care of the problem, and they said, no, we're busy. We're out of town. We can't. And I'm all right. And I honestly didn't think the CEO was going to take care of it like that and call me. And I said, well, he called me and I made a comment like he said, if I have any problems, I can call HR. And the looks I got, I thought they were going to kill me. So everybody knows this, but that was funny. And we would sometimes we would laugh so hard because we were making fun of people and this that. But I met some really great people. And the reason I wanted to tell some of these stories and just say these good people because three of them I've talked to in the last week, either by text or on phone, caring enough about me to make sure I'm okay out here because they see Facebook posts. Ryan, Dana, and Elisa, of course, the three that I'm very close to still that I worked with. I still reach out to some of the other people, but um, I got to tell you. And they would listen to my stories and laugh. And then they would tell me stories. I learned a lot of stuff from those guys because I didn't know, okay, manscaping. I had no idea what that was. Now, this is years ago we were talking about. I'm like, manscaping? What's manscaping? And when they told me, I'm like, ew. And I looked at Ryan, I go, do you manscape? And Ryan was in his 20s and just a gorgeous human being. And he's like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, really? So we would laugh about that. And they would say things, they would say certain words, and the new stuff that these kids come up with, like gobbledangers or whatever, those are twins. We call them twins. There's your twin, not gobbledanger. I'm like, what is that? And they would laugh. So then they would start to say things just to see the looks on my face. And for the life of me, there was this one word they told me, and it was something very sexual, and I can't remember the word, but I was like, I have never heard of that. And they told me, and I was like, so it was funny that night. They told me it was a Friday afternoon. That night, a bunch of us, my family, we had my cousin in from Alaska. We all went downtown and we all ate dinner. There was like 20 of us. And I shout out, "Hey, does anybody know what this word means?" And I knew, and the looks on their faces was so funny. They're all like, "Len, don't say that out in public." I can't remember what it was, or what did they call the back door? I was like, "What do you mean the back door?" What? I learned about that. Oh my God, the things these guys would tell me because they said, telling you stuff, Lynn, the look on your face was precious. So we did have a lot of good times. And I got to tell you, the people that I met after Bill passed away knew a different Lynn um, than the people who knew me before Bill died and knew all the stuff that go on. They sort of met a different Lynn because after a while, I started to let it go, and it was different. So they met a different Lynn. They did not know that Lynn. They only heard stories, and of course they couldn't believe them. They're like, "Wow, you're an amazing person." And the one thing is, that was the other thing. If something was going on in the department, and I thought it was a cause that needed to be taken care of, I was the one that always went in. They used to laugh because they said, "There she goes, walking down the aisle," and I'd go to the manager, and so I'm always was the one. So, and people were thinking it in meetings and this and that. I said it. Yeah, I did. I got in trouble many times. I got Lynn in my office. Yes, ma'am. And they'd all be laughing like, "There she goes again." But I did. I can't help it. That's the one thing is I'm not a liar. And I tell the truth too much and it gets me in trouble. And many times was I sit in my manager's office. But I will tell you, the director of our department, this will always stand out in my mind. When we found out that there was rumors that we were going to be laid off, that they were going to shut it down, they weren't going to sell it off, because then now an Irish company wanted to buy us, Shire, which ended up coming in and buying us. So now we're Shire. We went from Baxter, Baxalta, now we're Shire within a 2-year period. And when all this was happening, we didn't know we were going to have jobs. So I was upset. I live on my own. I wasn't ready to stop. I mean, I didn't have anybody else. The income, that was it. And still paying my house off at that time. So Lauren, the big manager, called me in to try to make me feel better. And this is what she said. Swear to God, anybody who's listening to this that worked with me knows I am not lying, on Bill's grave. She said, "I know these are trying times, but everybody in the department has to pay their bills too. So let's try to calm down because everybody looks to you, Lynn, for guidance. These youngsters, they're all young. They're all in the 30s and 20s. I was the oldest by many years. And they look for you guys. So when you're upset, they get upset. And she goes, and I have my bills too. I own 5 houses. I have to pay for those. And I'm like, did she say 5 houses? And she's like, yeah. So it's a hardship for all of us. I think that was the first time in my entire life I was speechless, and I'm not speechless too often. Swear to God, that's what she told me. And I walked out of there shaking my head, and they're all looking at me like, "Are you okay? What did you just get fired? What happened?" I go, "No." So she walked away. Lauren walked away. She went back to her office, and I told them. They're like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, she has 5 houses she has to pay for. So I better shut up." Oh my God, we were laughing. I thought we were going to pee in our pants. We had a really good time. So, but I want to say that those people were really great. There were some times where I didn't even want to live. I didn't. And I would say it, and they always, I'd be like, who cares? I would make comments, and they're like, Lynn, we love you. And they were all so good to me. They really, really were. When I was down, they would pick me up, and they really cared. There were some of them, and we had a good group in the initial. And then when we got bought out and we spun out, we lost it. I worked with one of the greatest groups when we were first back Salta that I had ever worked with. I worked with some pretty good people when I worked at Beckman Instruments for 18 years, but not like this group. They were hard workers. They were young. They were willing. I had one guy right out of college sit next to me. Here's another thing. His name is Yassine. Here I'm already saying it wrong again. Do you know I said his name wrong for 1 month and they all knew it and they let me kept doing it? Because I'm Archie Bunker's daughter. I don't know how to pronounce stuff. And finally he goes, I can't do this anymore. You're mispronouncing my name. It's not Yassine, it's Yassine. And I'm like, or whatever it was, I can't remember. And I'm like, what? And I remember this guy, Ed, was sitting there and he was laughing. He's like, oh my God, it's been going on for a month, Lynn. I'm like, hey. And there was one other time I will say I was sitting at my desk and the managers were all having a meeting literally right across from us, and they were fighting. There was like 6 or 7 of them in there. They're all ladies. That's a problem. That was a problem at Baxter. Too many women in charge, and they were all in there fighting. So I got up and they were like, "No, don't go to it." And I put my ear to the door, and I'm like, "Wow!" All of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, somebody's coming!" And I ran back to my desk. And I'm sitting there like, "What are you doing?" Nothing. So it was kind of like that, but. I know it wasn't all that interesting for some of you, but I just want to say really some good people, and I'm still good friends with them. Elisa's my daughter I never had, and Ryan's my second son. Um, and Ryan knows it, and he knows I'm not going to go into details. Ryan had a rough growing up life in Waukegan, and he turned out to be one of the most incredible human beings I met. And when I first met him, and we ended up sitting together, and to now, he has changed so much. He grew up so much. And he even said to me, and he just said, you helped. I remember at his wedding, he said, you got me here. And he was such a great guy. I love him, and I will always love him. And every time I go back to Illinois, he is always on the the visitation list. I have not gone there without seeing him. Him and Elisa, my kids. They're like my kids. They could be my kids because they're early 30s. And so I just met some really, really good people that really helped me to try to move on and listen to the stories and had empathy and just, really good people. So shout out to them and the ones who still care about me and still check on me. I love you guys. You know that. So I think we need a song. Because I was talking to one of those awesome people yesterday, and she's like, I like your songs. I don't need no fancy songs. I want songs that are going to make me laugh. All right, let's do it. Happy days will come again. The stores will have toilet paper again. So let's sing a song for toilet paper. Happy days will come again. Okay, all together, let's shout it now. There's no food or toilet paper to be found. So let's all sing out loud. We're so on toilet paper. Happy days will come again. Everything is closing down. Oh no, I need my dispensary now. Oh, happy days will come again. Happy days will be here again. What do you guys think? Happy days will come again. The casinos are all shutting down for now. What? Happy days will come again. Please don't shut the pot dispensaries down. People like me all around need it for our anxiety for now. Happy days will come again. Please just let me have some toilet paper. Food would help a little too. Happy days are here again. I just made all that up. You could tell, right? You know what? I love you guys. Now, I guess my message is going to have to be a little different. But there are some cranky people out there. And you know what? This is one thing I've learned in this the last week, and it disappoints me, is most people are out for themselves. And that makes me sad. Because if people would think about other people, they wouldn't have been hoarding all the stuff, and we could all work together. And if we all worked together and took a little now and then came back the next day and went back the next day, we could all have eggs. We could all have chicken. We could all have toilet paper, vinegar. I mean, we could. So let's be kind to each other and reach out if you know somebody who's elderly or who is sick, and make sure they're okay, because not everybody can go out, and in these lines and stores you don't want somebody who is elderly and not well or whatever out in these. You just don't. So let's all work together, because if we stick together we're going to get through this. 61 years I've lived, almost 62, never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, we had the closest thing, and it was only for what, 4 days, 5 days, is when we had the blizzard in 68, 69, I can't remember, in Illinois, and it shut down everything. I just remember my mom grabbing the toboggan out of the garage, putting me and my two brothers. Kathy stayed home because she was a baby, and we had to walk to the store with the toboggan. We pulled the toboggan and we walked to the store, and the toboggan was to put the groceries on to walk back. You had to fill your bathtubs because with water, because a lot of the people back then were septic, and you couldn't run out of water, so you had to put it in the toilet when you flushed it. So the bathtub was filled to capacity because everybody was losing power too. So if you lost power, it screwed up the septic system and everything. We had lost power there. It was days, and that's the closest to this. This is 100 times worse. So, but let's just help each other. And tomorrow I'll have a guest, and maybe we can make you all laugh. I know that some people have been sending me messages. Now my brother-in-law from Colorado, who gave graciously Bill his kidney, who's in one of the stories, really is enjoying them now. And he said it's reminding him of things I forgot about. So somebody just texted me. But let's just stick together and let's laugh, okay? And I'm glad you're enjoying the shows. I know my one friend said yesterday, I think they're funny. And they are silly, and that's the idea. I'm not here to sing a song like, you know, Celine Dion. No, I can't carry a tune. So that's not the idea. If you're laughing at me, bingo! So I love you guys. Let's stick together, and let's just hope I can find toilet paper and some more food. So be kind to each other, help each other out, and love people, because this is a trying time, man. And keep on rocking and rolling, baby. And don't forget to watch tomorrow's show of the Vegas Baby Show starring Malin. I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Oh, boy.